Good evening and a very warm welcome to our guests, dignitaries, faculty members, ladies and gentlemen. One of the secrets of life is to keep our intellectual curiosity acute. Keeping these two words in mind, I, Supriya Sharma of PGP 2325
and I, Sanya Makhija of PGP Batch 2325,
on behalf of IIM Raipur, welcome you all to IIM Raipur's intellectual series, Gyan Varsha, presenting the rock stars of India. This monthly series brings together academia, industry and purpose-driven speakers in an informal, intellectual and social environment. It helps us to engage with visionaries, innovators and leaders who have dedicated their lives to our nation and nation building. Their selfless and immense contribution to the betterment of our country makes them the true rock stars of India.
Before we begin, I would request Professor Varsha to please welcome our guest speaker for the evening, Shri Sai Sanjeevani, with a bouquet. Today's theme focuses on our commitment to address gaps in access and opportunity. By directing attention to overlooked communities, we aim to break down barriers and ensure that societal progress benefits us all. This evening represents a collective effort to bridge gaps and redefine inclusivity.
Shri SREENIVAS has been associated with Bhagwan Shri Satya Sai Baba and his various service projects in healthcare, education, drinking water supply and rural initiatives for over 50 years. A social entrepreneur and a selfless worker, he has built and run several institutions of services. Most notably, in the recent years, the Shri Satya Sai Sanjeevani Centers for Child Heart Care and Shri Satya Sai Mother and Child Hospitals. While these hospitals are based in 5 states in India, they serve patients from across the country. A unique aspect of these hospitals is that they don't have any billing counters and all services are provided totally free of cost to all.
He is presently the chairperson of the trust which runs the hospitals. He is also the chairperson of Shri Satya Sai Sanjeevani Research Foundation, a leading center striving to understand factors and causes of child heart diseases, the most common defect among newborns in India. This trust is also being supported by prominent members of the society, including but not only limited to Mr. Vivek Gaur and Mr. Sunil Gavaskar. Thank you, sir, for being here today. IIM Raipur is delighted to have you here. Now let us all watch a quick video to see what the trust is all about.
In India, 1 out of every 100 children are born with a cardiac ailment. Little hearts need mending and are often not detected, not cared for in time. Congenital heart disease has emerged as the commonest birth defect in India. It is to address this sad and unserved need, the Shri Satya Sai Sanjeevani Hospital was established in Raipur in November 2012. Completed in a record 9 months, the Center for Child Heart Care in Shri Satya Sai Sanjeevani offers diagnostic cardiology services and surgical treatments of all congenital heart diseases, totally free of cost. Transcending geographic boundaries, Sai Sanjeevani has conducted pediatric cardiac surgeries for children coming from several other developing countries and plans to help train and set up local pediatric cardiac units in some of these countries, thus spreading the message of selfless love in shores far across. To further address this national and global burden of child heart disease, yet another chapter of Baba's love unfolded in the sacred Krishna Bhumi at Bagola, Palwal district, Haryana. Shri Satya Sai Sanjeevani International Center for Child Heart Care and Research in Pediatric Cardiac Sciences started functioning from November 2016. To heal more hearts, spread more love and seek more joy. This Center for Child Heart Care provides totally free of cost pediatric cardiac services to children in India and other developing countries. With a vision to grow into one of the world's largest child heart care centers, the hospital contributes to long-term sustainable approaches with a special focus on extensive research on the causes of congenital heart diseases in children.
आज हरियाणा में पलवल इलाके में सत्य साई संजीवनी हेल्थ सेंटर का जो प्रारंभ हो रहा है, ये अस्पताल सिर्फ हरियाणा के क्षेत्र का नहीं, लेकिन उत्तर भारत के कई इलाकों के बालकों के लिए एक आशीर्वाद बनेगा.
The power of selfless service further cast its magic amidst the hustle and bustle of the big city, Mumbai, in the form of a Sri Sai Sanjeevani Center for Child Heart Care and Training in Pediatric Cardiac Skills at Kharghar in Navi Mumbai. This unique aspect about this center is that apart from surgeries and consultations, it will operate a training center for surgeons and paramedical professionals. The Bhumi Puja of the hospital was done in November 2017, and the hospital is currently under construction, and the first surgery will be held in November 2018. Within a short span of 5 years, Sri Sai Sanjeevani Centers for Child Heart Care have reached out to children in 10,000 villages in 26 states. With a selfless investment made for national good, rupees 400 crores. Services rendered worth rupees 150 crores. But the love and gratitude received from innumerable children and parents, priceless. All this through the sweat, sacrifice and service of noble citizens for the well-being of future generations. The mission of quality healthcare provided totally free of cost that started in Puttaparthi, Andhra Pradesh, is now spreading to different parts of the country and the world.
उपक्रम के लिए शुभकामनाएं देता हूं और सामान्य परिवार के बालकों के जीवन को उत्तम से उत्तम सेवा प्रदान होगी, ऐसा मेरा विश्वास है. आप सबको मेरी तरफ से साई राम, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
My deepest respect, gratitude first to Professor Ram Kumar ji, distinguished faculty of the Indian Institute of Management here in Raipur, and the brilliant young boys and girls students of the MBA program and the post PhD program, and my couple of colleagues who've come with me from Sai Sanjeevani Raipur. It was possibly a couple of months back that I ventured to come to this hallowed campus to seek an audience with Professor Ram Kumar. And he was most gracious, like I reckon he always is. And I culminated my meeting with him with requesting him to come to the Sai Sanjeevani campus here in Raipur, which he promptly and most graciously consented to. And then, my dear students, Professor Ram Kumar came with Mrs. Ram Kumar. He did a customary tour of the hospital and then came for us to meet. I want each one of you to know that I could see in him a demeanor of being visibly moved and overwhelmed with what he had seen in the last half an hour and possibly experienced during the tour of the hospital which we give to some visitors that come, and I pray and hope every young boy and girl here makes a visit there, because believe you me, it will not just redefine your lives, it will give you a fresh perspective, the kind of which, in humility, I would submit, no institute can give you. Why do I say that? Gabrielle Mistral was a Chilean woman poet who won the Nobel Prize for Literature several decades back. She wrote a poem which says about a child, the name is Today. It was a poem which fetched her the Nobel Prize for Literature, and amongst her contributions was the landmark standout contribution of this poem, The Child Whose Name is Today. Now what I am conveying to all of you, and in particular to each and every one of you, what we do is to serve children who only know today. Just imagine a world, imagine an existence, and for that matter, let us imagine each one of our existence if we were not sure that we will see tomorrow. Suddenly, the whole complexion, perspective, approach, attitude of your lives and our lives will undergo such a metamorphosis, the like of which you will have to experience what it is. That there are not thousands but millions of children as we sit in the comfort of this magnificent auditorium. There are millions of children unknown, unrecognized, unattended, who may not have a tomorrow. This is the world, my dears, we live in. And when you know there is no tomorrow, what policy will work, what philosophy will work, only and only humanity will work. That is the birth of Sai Sanjeevani. I was asked by the then Government of India in 2010 by the Secretary Health Government of India, Shri Kesav Deshiraju, not many of you would know him, an illustrious, passionate, patriotic bureaucrat of our country. It was he who told me that, Srinivas, I've known you for over 4 decades. Now that you have come to me, let us work for that segment of our country which as a country we have done very, very little, and that is to invest in the children of our country. It was by divine ordain, my dear students, that I was directed to come to Chhattisgarh. And getting the counsel, wisdom and direction of the likes of Shri Keshav Deshiraju and a couple of other distinguished luminaries with whom I worked, I set out on this mission of what you saw in very sketchy format, the commencement of a Child Heart Center. So, in 2011, when I first came to Chhattisgarh, and with this mission and vision and dream to establish, as was directed, a Child Heart Center, I want all of you to kind of try and live through those days through the minds of your own. To establish a Child Heart Center was, of course, what today is the definition of Satya Sai Sanjeevani. But because I'm here in the presence of management students and management faculty, a normal definition of a healthcare institution is a hospital. I've always wondered and felt incorrect. Why should it just be called a hospital? Why should an institute of giving care, of curing disease, of alleviating suffering, or preventing illness, or even promoting wellness be just called a hospital? You as management students should reflect, why don't we redefine this term? To me, a hospital is an institution of public service, because the hundreds and thousands that come there, and the difference between healthcare and other lines of work is, if some of you come to our center, you will see a cross-section of the country present at 5 a.m. in the morning. From Mizoram, Manipur, to Sikkim, West Bengal, to Rajasthan, to Gujarat, down to the arid parts of central India, you will see families, parents of children coming through long distances, facing innumerable hardships, both economic and psychological, just coming to the gates of a tertiary center. And with the hope and a prayer and an aspiration that they will be able to save their dying child who will not see a tomorrow. When you know you are going to live, that tomorrow is a dream and possibly a mirage for many, you will understand the true purpose and meaning of life. Believe you me, I am not just speaking words, these are coming from the depths of my heart, because I see this day in and day out. We see hundreds and thousands who come. We are not able to serve all of them because child heart care is the most complex surgery ever to be attempted and done on a human body. Because as a child, which is small with a malfunction in the heart, the body is not developed well, and to operate on the heart, which is attributed to be the size of your left fist, you will understand how complicated, how difficult, how phenomenally coordinated your head, heart, and hand must be, because in child heart surgery, there is no second chance. One error is all that it takes to remove life and insert death in that. That is the precision to where you must be and your team must be to make that work. Just going back for a moment to Professor Ramkumar's visit, when he told me, Srinivas ji, we are nothing. I do not know what he meant by it, but he made a statement. Pardon me, sir, if I'm slightly wrong, but I think you made that statement, we are nothing. Children, I'd want you to know something. Even before you made your entry onto this planet out of your mother's womb, in the first month when you children were in the fetus of your mother, in the first month, when you were in the fetus or the womb of your mother, the first gift God Almighty gave you in the womb of your mother was your brain. In the first month of your existence in the womb of your mother, God planted in you the first organ, which is the brain. And the brain's fundamental function is to wonder, is to explore, is to be curious, is to endeavor to know the unknown. And when Ramkumarji told me we are nothing, the first thing that hit me was that the child in him is so vibrant and so alive, even as director of Indian Institute of Management. This is not a small statement, my dear students, because education today teaches you many things. And in the process of teaching you many things, you're made to think structuredly, scientifically, in a manner to approach life and to address problems of anything that you are trained to in these institutes. But to remain curious, to remain wondrous, is the essence and blessing of life. The second organ, if you children may know or may not know, that the organ, even in the second month, not after birth, in the fetus, which you get to have, is the beautiful organ of the heart. Just imagine you are not even 7 months away out of your mother's womb, but in the second month, your heart begins its relentless, ceaseless, continuous journey, like the beat of your heart to keep you alive through thick and thin, through joy and sorrow, through ups and downs on the journey of your life. So the brain, which is so vital to make you think, to be curious, to wonder, and the heart, which teaches you lessons unparalleled, that come what may, I will continue to do my job, silent, unseen, unknown, but deep within each and every one of your bosom. This is a lesson not just for the living, but for life. So I, coming from this background, have always wondered, why do we call these institutions which give life by a mediocre term of a hospital? They are far more. They are institutions of public service. And when the film showed you, and which is the truth, which is something which you as managed students, I'm sure, would want to fathom, how do you run institutions which have no transactions to them? How is it that everything is offered free? We'll leave that aside for another day. But it is unfortunate to call these institutions mere hospitals. And I'd like to redefine even Sir's Indian Institute of Management. When Sir made that statement, in him I thought, he was not director of IIM, which is Indian Institute of Management. He was director of Indian Institute of Leadership, because he saw in people the ability to do the undone. And he recognized that. And that is the first hallmark of somebody who thinks with his heart, who envisions with his mind, who has a capacity to endeavor with his heart, and a will to achieve the unachievable. And that is why I would declare today, Professor Ramkumar is not just director of Indian Institute of Management, but Raipur's Indian Institute of Leadership. That is what he is. Because if you can recognize the potential, the talent, because you boys and girls tomorrow will go out into the world, and believe you me, just by yourself you are not going to achieve much. You will have to build teams. You will have to build a set of people who come from every part, from different backgrounds, from different education systems, and to create them into a harmonious team. And thereafter into a commando team of different bodies in one mind and one heartbeat. That becomes the essence of management. where your goal remains supreme and you are all functionaries to take you to that goal. Because coming from an institute of child heart care, perforce, you are left with no choice but to think, speak, and work as one. The ability of the many to become one is also the essence of management and also the essence of child heart surgery. So Satya Sai Sanjeevani, as also possibly Indian Institute of Management, is not just an institute providing high quality, high-end management education. They are institutes of public service, because you boys and girls will go out tomorrow and in your own ways you will serve. Maybe for a packet or may not be, that's a different matter. But all said and done, you will serve. And therefore I think, and I've always felt, an institution like us is an institute of national development. Why don't we have to think like that? Why do you want to call yourself students or postgraduate students or PhD students just of Indian Institute of Management? You're an institute of national development. Suddenly you are the future, making the future, writing the future of this country. Suddenly you are different. You're not just here to get a management education, which of course it's a great honor. I'm not sure if I would ever make it to a management school like this. But tomorrow you will write the destiny of so many of our young men and women and children if you start beginning to think like that. Think that Indian Institute of Management, Raipur, is an institute of national development. Retain that curiosity, wonder which God planted in the first month in the fetus of your mother's womb in you. Think big in that way, that maybe I am destined to come out into this world to develop my country, because the country needs that from each and every one of you. I also think through the journey that 11 years we did in the past, from Satya Sai, beginning with Satya Sai Sanjeevani, we are an institute of international friendship, goodwill, and seva. We have worked, and you children will hold your breath. My teams have operated amidst bombing in Syria. I want you to raise your eyebrows on that. In bombing of Syria, where we were asked to come, we operated on children dying, and that was something I will salute my teams for. We operated in Sri Lanka recently, a couple of years back, when it went through turmoil there. We were the only institution called because children were dying who otherwise would not have seen tomorrow. That was again an act of service India did to Sri Lanka. And I can recount examples from the African continent, from the South Pacific, and so on. Today there are 25 countries which collaborate with Satya Sai Sanjeevani in Raipur for training doctors, for training nurses, for training paramedical staff, for training the entire healthcare ecosystem. How can a small hospital in a part of Chhattisgarh become such an institute of friendship, goodwill, and international relations? And students, healthcare diplomacy is a most powerful diplomacy, because you are helping and saving lives in times of need. Your country, as we know, will be respected, will be revered for these acts of service, and that is what you are all capable of. And finally, I would say, a hospital is an institute of human transformation. When you come, and if you come to our center, when you see hundreds of parents, it's an experience, because you don't get to see this possibly, because you were blessed. You live with a good heart, both physically and metaphysically. Your hearts are functioning well. You do not know what it is to have a malfunctioning heart in you. You cannot take 10 steps, my dears. You cannot breathe normally. Going up the staircase, you will end up with a stretcher to take another intensive care to see you through. You are blessed because you have the gift of life, which is a privilege which hundreds and thousands do not have. And in that respect, serving in these institutions, these are institutions of human transformation. What was the journey like? If to take an example out of management, I came in the month of May in 2011 to Chhattisgarh. I reckon that is long before this beautiful campus even came up. I came all alone, my dear students. Nothing but just a vision, nothing but just a direction that I had to obey. Not many friends also at that time, because as you know, and you will know in the journey of life, struggles have few friends, successes will have 1,000,000 friends, failures will have no friends. So as an entrepreneur in a way, I came, and most important in the lesson of entrepreneurship, I had no money. With just a dream and a vision to start a center of child heart care, to provide services, that too totally free of cost. Undoubtedly a full definition of the word a fool. Who is going to buy your dream? Who is going to buy your vision? Who is going to accept what you're going to be saying or hoping to do? But I think entrepreneurship is a brilliant term which should come out of Indian Institutes of Management. I had the privilege of speaking to two young girls just now, and they were telling me about life in a corporate world tomorrow. So I humbly submitted to them, certainly corporate life is good life. There is so much that is to be done there, and so much more waiting to be done in the world there. But the dreams of tomorrow have to be realized only by addressing the realities of today. In the field of healthcare, which I reckon some of you would be aware of, India suffers from over-medicalization and under-medicalization. 20% of India is blessed with the privilege of over-medicalization. You have choice of healthcare institutions, you have choice of doctors to go to, and choice of nursing homes you wish to access to. But a massive 80% of India suffers from under or no medicalization. That tantamounts, and you can do the arithmetic, you boys and girls, out of 140 crores, what does that translate to in human population? And if you see that as a problem, I'm sure Indian Institute of Management teaches you to see that as an opportunity. And that is what management institutes are about, to see opportunities in problems, because opportunities only come as problems. So would you wish to go and further serve, for instance, in the over-medicalized 20% population, or go to the vast 80% where there is no access, no availability of health care? Is something that I will leave with you as a reflection. So, entrepreneurship in many ways defines character. So when I came then, I still remember, Professor Ramkumar, the travel I would make from a rental accommodation in Raipur, when with great difficulty I could get the confidence and the belief of a good old friend of mine to give me a little money to buy that land where I was to build a totally free of cost hospital. So the then Chief Minister was gracious enough, thanks to my friend who took me and gave me a good word of recommendation. He said, which he said later in a public domain, एक पतला सा आदमी मेरे पास आया, एक बोल दिया, बड़ा बड़ा बात बोला कि 1 साल में ये अस्पताल बनाएगा। तो मैं सोचा ऐसे तो मेरे पास बहुत लोग आते हैं, बहुत बड़े बड़े बातें बोलते हैं, मगर ये तो एक चमत्कार की बात है कि 1 साल के अंदर ये पतला दुबला आदमी फिर मेरे पास आया और बोला, साहब अभी आप आना ये अस्पताल खोलने के लिए। And if that is a lesson in what you students would wish to work in, what is called project management, how do you build with nothing a one-of-a-kind, state-of-the-art, best-in-class, world-class, get the required human resources of skill and expertise to come of all places to a state of Chhattisgarh and perform the most complex heart surgery on that child is itself testimony to what the spirit of entrepreneurship is and lies in the bosom of each and every one of you. You are capable of far more education than what you get because you have within you a heart that feels, a mind that envisions, a capacity that can endeavor, and an indomitable will that can achieve and do the undone. That is what Indian Institute of Management, Indian Institute of Leadership ingrains in every heartbeat of you. So that we built. A number of people then, of course, told me. And just for the record, today we are the largest chain of child heart hospitals, not just in Chhattisgarh, not just in India, but in the whole world. Importantly, free of cost. Like I told you, if there is a child and a family, and this is something, it can become a live example for each one of you. Tomorrow morning when you get up, if a mother and father come to you, crying, wailing out, in an ambulance with a sick child, stating and praying to you that, sir, please save my child, I have nowhere to go, what would you boys and girls do? Would you talk to them policy? Would you talk to them health policy? Would you talk to them economics? Or would you talk to them philosophy? You would wish, because you have a heart and a brain, that you could do something to save that little child, because God forbid, it could be your child. It could be anybody's child. And that ability to feel is what is the essence of human life. And it is out of that, and that is why entrepreneurship becomes so important. What, my dear boys and girls, is this model of Sai Sanjeevani? I'd like to just share with you. Because in many ways, today when we speak extensively, I for one also have great respect for corporate healthcare. There is no doubt that it brings quality, it brings processes and protocols to healthcare, it gives beautiful environments to work in. Certainly we salute all that. But beyond a point, it is imperative as a human being, and it is acceptable as a human being to corporatize anything. But if you start commoditizing everything, I think then you're crossing the line. If the human body is a corporate treatable entity, certainly that is fine, and I think that is all right. But if it is a commodity like a chair on which you're sitting, then I think somewhere it is hitting at the root of us being a human species. So leaving that as it is, what I would just place before all of you for reflection, an institution of healing should first be an institution of learning. An institution of healing only when it is an institution of learning, because learning from a human body is the most profound and the most wondrous thing. The difference between pure management education and medical education is you boys and girls don't dissect the human body. And I'm quite sure some of you girls would have to put all the strength in your heart to open up the heart of a child in an operating room. It's not an easy experience, believe you me, and you're most welcome if you boys and girls wish to come and see a heart surgery. Everything looks beautiful on the human body when we are all well dressed up like this. But when we are stark naked like how we were when we were born, and you put the scalpel to your chest and you open out the chest left to right, the picture becomes very different and announces how you and I are living today. So temples of healing or institutions of healing must be institutions of learning. And that is where we begin to understand what it takes to not just cure disease, but prevent disease. Because prevention of disease is extremely important, and if anything, COVID was the one which taught you that. Suddenly, an in the air, fantastic being which was not visible to the human eye made all of us put on masks, and teen kaj ki duri and whatnot happened suddenly in a fraction of a moment. And suddenly the whole country and the world went topsy-turvy out of that. But only when you learn that after all it was not so dangerous as it was made out to be. Fair enough, it was dangerous. But if only you knew the etiology of disease, which is the causes of diseases, you would have been that much more comfortable, confident, and secure within yourselves. And the third thing which I'll leave with you is, with education of learning of health comes the fantastic world we are going into of research. In our country today, my dear boys and girls, hospital exists in a silo, academics exists in another silo, research, which is the most important also of these, exists in another silo which is far and few. What Sanjeevani does and did was, it amalgamated this. Every case that we treat, cure or serve becomes an entity of learning and understanding and comprehending. And thereafter, a commonsensical approach made me ask, which I'm sure will come to any one of you, why does disease happen? Why is it we are blessed with good health, and why is it somebody succumbs to disease? Is a commonsensical question when you build centers of child heart care. And I'm saddened to share with you, barring emergencies, my dear boys and girls, if a child has to be put for surgery in Sai Sanjeevani, it will be in the year 2026. When I told you the child has no tomorrow, and if I'm also telling you the surgery I can give you is 2026, what does that tell you? Of the alarming numbers that are waiting, hoping, and praying for that gift of life. So what makes you do the undone there? To understand causes and factors, to work your mind and go into studies of research on why does disease happen. And that opens you to a phenomenally fantastic universe of opportunity and learning. The world of research, my dear boys and girls, is divided into what is called studies of genetics. You all would know in some possible measure that we are all a body of genes. And deep within, we are a body of billions and billions and trillions of cells that make up this magnificent entity that we call the human body that brings you to Indian Institute of Management. But disease occurs at that microcosmical level of the cell or the gene which you must study. Today, it is certainly a matter of pride that your neighbor in Raipur is the repository to the world's largest tissue bank of hearts that can ever be. This is a phenomenal wealth, and as you children would know, data is power, data is gold, heart tissue is beyond gold. Today, if we have the access of the world's largest heart tissue, it is the credit of those millions of mothers and fathers who gave us that consent and assent to take that diseased tissue and store in our genetic bank. Today, we work with the leading universities of the world. We work with the leading genetic labs of the world in understanding causes and factors of diseases. And another area which I think will be of importance to you is the vast area of public health. Don't think public health is an health item. Public health stands for anything under the sun, right up to this beautiful auditorium where we sit, is under the orbit or the umbrella of public health. Because the air you breathe here also comes under public health. So today in the world that we live in, there are multiple factors. Raipur is a blessed part of the world actually. We work, for instance, in Haryana. Let me give you one example in Haryana. I'm sure some of you boys and girls are from the north, and the air quality which is often spoken about in Delhi leaves you with a lot to be desired. And if breathing that kind of air becomes a daily feature to you, you can be sure it is going to affect your lungs and your function. So there are multiple factors: the air we breathe, the food we eat, the soil we take our food from, the water we drink. Do you know, my dear boys and girls, patients that come to our family drink water from the same talab, cook water from the same talab, wash their clothes from the same talab water, wash their buffaloes also in the same talab, bathe also in the same talab, bathe their children also in the same talab, and come to the hospital after that. We did an experiment because one of our collaborators is D.Y. Patil in Bombay. So when they came to me, I said, let's do one thing, my dear boys and girls. You are 100 of you postgraduate students. Go back for your summer vacation, come back and bring with you a test of the quality of water that you got in your own towns or cities or wherever you live, and give me that report. Professor Ramkumar, 80% of the potable water that comes in many of our towns and cities did not pass the test for drinking water. I'm not trying to scare you. I also want to tell you how resilient your human body is. It is made by God Almighty to fight so many battles that keeps you healthy. So be grateful to that. Be thankful to God Almighty and your parents to give you such a beautiful body. So this is what our life is about. But there are many who do not have that same resilience and resistance in them to counter all this. And that is why disease comes and they succumb. So health, academics, learning and research takes me to the world of tomorrow. Let me give you a couple of interesting examples. We have a center in Navi Mumbai in Kharghar, again built at the invitation of Government of Maharashtra. We also run, possibly they didn't tell you, we run a large number of what is called mother and child hospitals. Mother and child hospitals are unique institutions built in most unserved geographies of our country, where we take care of young women, and predominantly women in most parts of our country. Recently, there was a cricket match, I think, which happened here, and my nephew VVS Lakshman brought some of his cricketers to the hospital. And in a conversation, I told him, I see these large number of young women who are anemic in our country. He said, Anna, why are you talking only of the women? You don't have to quote this, but this is the truth what he told me. Half the members of the Indian women's cricket team are anemic. Sadly, this is an issue that faces Indian and Asian women today. Not that it deters you from life. They still play cricket, they still play sport. But it becomes an issue when you go to childbirthing. And when you are malnourished, when you do not have nutrients and micronutrients in your body, you face challenges with what are called begetting children with congenital defects. Congenital defects are defects that come with birth. And that comes as a result of malnutrition and malnourishment in the mother. So this, when we did, we built this chain of hospitals in all these places. We studied factors that are leading to diseases and which become so important. We did a small test, and this is very interesting, especially to the young boys and girls. What did we do? I'm sure all of you are aware of the power of yoga. It is something which is so much spoken about in our country. None other than the Prime Minister is such a proponent of yoga, and certainly it's a great art and science of wellness and well-being which our forefathers gave here. I'll tell you something which you children should hold your breath. In the 9 months of pregnancy in our mother and child hospital, we selected a cohort of 100 mothers, and we put them in what is called the Dhyana Mudra. It's a simple mudra. In fact, I'd recommend all you boys and girls, just hold your thumb and your index finger. This is a Dhyana Mudra. And it'll do you a lot of good. You just hold this. You will see in a moment of minutes, a calm, a composure descending onto you. So we did this test with all what is called an ANC checkup, which anyway, I'll leave that medical terms, but we have a system where every month a pregnant woman comes to our hospital. We provide a consultation, we provide 3 scans for them, we give them nutrition to ensure there is safe motherhood and thereafter safe childbirth. So we put them through yoga, and all the mothers were made to mandatorily do the Dhyan Mudra. And now, boys and girls, hold your breath. When the children or the babies were born, there are photographs taken, there are evidences given by the parents, especially the mother. The newborn baby naturally, out of no teaching, naturally holds its arm and fist in Dhyan Mudra. You may laugh at it, but this is pure science coming from a scientific institution and an ICMR accredited study. So what I want to tell you is the power that the mind can unleash, which God created and put in your fetus in the first month, has such profound effect. Then we also work with futuristic technologies, which I'm sure some of you children would be aware of. We work with another neighbor of yours with triple IT. We work with digital health, where you don't have to go to a hospital to understand your bodily functions. We take an image. If you have a hand phone with you, all we do is we take a photograph of your eye. We take a photograph of your eye in 3 parts. We take, if some of you would have gone, or your fathers or grandparents would have gone to a doctor, what was the first thing he would do? He would ask you to do this and examine your lower eye. I do not know if some of you in this generation should know of that, or you possibly do. Nice to know some of you are nodding your head. So he or she would do that. What does that do? Today, with the power of image data processing, I can decipher your hemoglobin function of that lower eye without even touching you. Then we take the photograph of the central eyeball. That gives you clear evidence of your HIV and jaundice function. Many children at some point in their life get jaundice. Then we take the upper eye function, which gives me a complete spectrum study of your endocrine function, which is sadly now called diabetes. So with just one eye image, not even necessary to take the person in front of you, it can be through an image which was taken somewhere. This is the power of digital health that can come about today. And imagine when we run mother and child hospitals in the jungles of Jharkhand, in the jungles of Bastar, to the hills and mountains of Uttarakhand, to the most arid parts of Yavatmal, where the largest number of suicides in the country happen next to our hospital, to the tribes and Adivasis of Telangana's hinterland, to Ayodhya, where we have opened our new center recently on 22nd of this month. You will see the power of digital health that can revolutionize healthcare detection, diagnosis, and care. And that is going to be in the hands of some of you. And lastly, I'll tell you, everything in life is measured, I would think, by impact. So, Zindagi mein, all that you do, you would want to know what is the measure of impact you've created, first on yourself and on whomever you've interacted or dealt with. So when you embark on serving the unserved and reaching the unreached and doing the undone, let me give you one, or if time permits me and madam permits me, I'll give you the other example, otherwise I will not. I was invited by the government of Jharkhand some time back, because I believe we operated on 2,000 tribal parents, children with congenital heart disease. So there was a function which they organized in Jamshedpur. So I was asked to come there, and my team also came there with me. And my dear boys and girls, I want you to just try and relate to this experience. There were about 100 boys and girls who were operated by us. And believe you me, these are children from Jharkhand. And Jharkhand, if some of you may know, is not Jamshedpur or Ranchi. It is the tribes that live in the forest regions of Jharkhand. So, like a picture that you showed, which sadly this was quite old. So there they showed a picture of the hospital, and that was an experience for me. All the children got up off of their chairs and then pointed out to the parents and said, "ये है हॉस्पिटल जहां मेरा जान बच गया, यहाँ मेरे को जिंदगी मिल गया, ये हॉस्पिटल में." Now that, for a child, how and why would it remember a hospital? And for it to exclaim and say that, I did not know in the audience like this, the leadership of Tata Steel was sitting there. All of you know, and I'm sure all of you know that for sure, Jamshedpur is where the empire and the whole mission of Tata started. So the managing director of Tata Steel was sitting there. So after the event, he sent for me and said, I would like to meet this gentleman and I have to tell him something. So here was the managing director of Tata Steel, which is what predominantly is in Jamshedpur. He asked me to meet him, which I met. And then he said, Ms. Srinivas, I have a request to make. We have 2 large hospitals in Jamshedpur. One, if some of you are from there, is called the Tata Main Hospital. And then there is another large hospital, which for some reason we are not running. I have a request to make of you, and only condition to that request is you have no choice to give me an answer, no. The answer has to be yes. And that is, I am placing this hospital with you. It is in the heart of center of Jamshedpur, belonging to the house of Tatas. And then I asked him, Sir, I am in awe and admiration of the Tatas. I draw inspiration from the Tatas. And why would the Tatas want me in Satya Sai Sanjeevani to take this hospital? This just doesn't add up. Srinivas ji, जिंदगी में नाम बहुत तरीके से बनता है. आपका नाम आपका काम है. Your name is your work. You have no choice, and that's how our 10th hospital started recently, about a year and a half back, in Jamshedpur. So like this, I can give you examples of when you think you are not working in just an institute of management, but an institute of public service, institute of national development, institute of international friendship and goodwill, and institute of human transformation. You will become what India will need tomorrow. And tomorrow, my dear boys and girls, what you studied will not matter, but what you do with what you studied will define you and make you the stars of tomorrow for which we all look forward. God bless and all the very best.
Your invaluable thoughts with us. Your message and wisdom have truly enlightened us today.
From the session today, the stage is now open for Q&A session.
Sir, I'm Shobita Chatterjee. Sir, we have visited few villages like in the rural Chhattisgarh. So we have seen that there are panchayats and villages which don't even have a health center. So what is your vision, like how can we cater to those people? Because people there are not aware, they don't even get the chance to get diagnosed. So one question is that, and second, what do you think as future leaders, what can we do such that we can cater to those children and those people who don't even have access to basic health care? Thank you, sir.
A most brilliant observation and credit to the institution that you are in, that doesn't just give you education within the 4 walls of this good-looking building, but takes you out into your surroundings, into your neighborhood, to understand the lives and living conditions of our brothers and sisters and our elders. What you have seen is sadly a reality that you will find in many parts of our country. All I can say is the very fact that you have seen, you have felt that you should do something about it and possibly work on getting a solution to this is in itself the beginning of something very good to happen. The domain I spoke to you about, public health, which is predominantly what is taught to us and what we understand as primary health care. The whole approach, therefore, of what we do is, see, it's always very glamorous and good-looking and nice to work in a glamorous specialty hospital. But sadly, that is just one part of healthcare. Healthcare is really needed and inaccessible, where you rightly pointed out, in the villages and smaller geographies that most of our population lives, which is what I told you a short while ago, that 80% of our population suffers from under-medicalization. Now, I would not want to just give you a retail, incremental solution to this problem, because that's not just the right way, but the fact that you felt is important. Well, what you could do as students is maybe, there is Dr. Nikhil here who's also come with me. He heads up public health. And we work in a good circle of geography around our hospital, where we cater to their needs. But see, what needs to be done is you need to define need also in healthcare properly. See, we cannot one size fits all do that. There are newborns or children, there are young boys and girls, then there are men and women who have reached a certain age, and then there are the aged and the elderly, or geriatrics that we say. So there are multiple segments of the society that we live in. The care that you will give a newborn or a little child may not be the same that you will give an elderly. The needs of health are different. The elderly would have different health issues that they would need to be cared for. So I'm more than open, and Nikhil will be more than happy to even work with all of you, provided we structuredly, scientifically take up one clustered geography. Then you can come or he could come here, do a proper health assessment of that region, which we do, and then we could provide the care. Now, care can take multiple forms. It could just take providing of medications to a diabetic patient. It could take blood pressure for the elderly there, or it could take checking of eyes for them, or doing their dent. So multiple things are there which we have our teams of public health to be doing. So we'll be glad to take up such initiatives, and it will be a matter of joy and pride and honor for us to work with you young boys, because I always believe you come out with fresh thinking and ways to approach this. So you and I cannot solve all the healthcare problems of the country, that's beyond us. But certainly we can make a difference to a small part that we are living in or which is in our neighborhood. So I would say a more meaningful, lasting, and sustainable. Because again, I'm sure all of you as students know that anything done should not just be a flash in the pan. It must be sustainable. You know, just this morning, we started a nutrition program for the first time in Chhattisgarh, where all government school children, we provide micronutrient nutrition to children from Mandir Hasaud, from Parsada, and I do not know the other 2-3 villages that we went to. So it has to be scientific and structured also. So maybe with Sir's permission, we could have a meet with us and define geography, do a proper assessment, and it could be a continuing initiative. Today it is you boys and girls. After 2 years, you boys and girls will move out and the next batch will come out. But all these populations will continue to live. They're not going to go away with us, you know. So that's where that sustainability comes in. So maybe the right way is for us to work with you and guide you on that, you know. I can't give you a off the hand sitting in this room solution for that. But I have to strongly compliment you for what you said and what you observed, because that is the first step in making a difference in somebody's life. Congratulations.
Next question, please.
Good evening, sir. I am Devita Rajore. Sir, I would like to know what are the ethical challenges faced by Sri Satya Sai Trust?
Brilliant. Again, congratulations for asking this question. Now, again, it's going to be a factor of time because you posed a one-liner question which can be an essay, which can take me, because ethical issues in healthcare are a huge matter of address, all institutions in healthcare have what you might know, ethics boards, because when we use the human body as a subject of study or research, you have to mandatorily, legally take an ethical clearance. That we have been in a very, and we continue to be in a very privileged position, unlike many institutions of the world, is when you provide anything free of cost and when you put the patient first. In fact, in our institution, I declare the patient is not just the king or queen of the institution, but the god of the institution. Vaidyo Narayana Hari is an old scriptural term, but patient Narayano Harihi is a Sanjeevani term, because the patient is also God. It's only when you view that patient as the divine, your whole approach becomes different. And that is how it is easy, and we are fortunate to get consent and assent from patients, which is the fundamental step. Thereby, we collect samples, and when we undertake any project of academic or scientific or research, we put it through the ethics boards. Then there is, of course, a research board again, which comprises of researchers. They are from a cross-section of leading institutes of the country, which comprise of this. And most often, when we don't embark on going into an industry-based approach, because all of us know that how does the pharma industry progress? It is only through research that is done on patients. But what happens? Research eventually takes you to new drug formulations or go to market opportunities. Nothing wrong with that. In fact, all the pharma companies of India that work approach us, and we work with some of them also, in different spaces, of course. So that becomes a different genre of approvals and compliances. But to give you a short answer to your question, an ethics approval is mandatory, and I welcome that, because you cannot do anything which might be unethical, certainly. Certainly, not in our institutions, unethics will not come even 10 miles close to us. We don't allow that. And there is no malafide in anything that we do. But that's the process. There is an ethical board clearance, patient consent and assent. And if you get into serious medical research, then there is a research clearance. And it goes on like that, depends on which area that you are addressing. But that's a good question again. Congrats.
Sir, I am Sandeepni Sahu from PG Batch 2325. Before asking the question, I would really like to thank you because I got introduced to Sri Satya Sai Health and Education Trust back in when I was in 9th grade. My nephew had a hole in his heart, and he, like his family, took him to Puttapurthi and got him treated over 3 surgeries over 3 years, and he's currently leading a, I could say, more than happy life. First of all, thank you so much, sir. So, talking from the management perspective, so this institute, like Sri Satya Sai Health and Education Trust, runs on a very different model than the corporates run. And as you spotted, the keyhole, like if it's not an emergency situation, then a child has to be treated in 2026 if he or she is diagnosed today. That's where the commoditization topic or that concept peeps in. So how as we, future managers or leaders, can take this into account and strategize it? Thank you, sir.
First, I'm really touched to hear the story of your nephew who got operated. And see, that's what impact is all about, And then, believe you me, when you save a boy or a girl's life and you gift him that life, like the poet says, when you save a child, you build a world. Don't underestimate the power of that statement, because you do not know what that child can grow up to become, There are so many stories. How and where was Stanford built? Stanford was built by some such boy and girl, by some such parents who lost their child while he was in Harvard to build Stanford. How was Sloan Kettering made in New York? Also similar such story. How was Indian Institute of Science founded? Through the gift of Swami Vivekananda traveling in the time. And then there are multiple stories of goodness and gratitude and goodwill that we are blessed to have today and which is doing so much work. Now this final question, and I think it's a culminating good question to ask. See, corporatization is a model which has brought an immense qualities of improvement in healthcare. There is no denying that. The challenge comes when how many of us can afford that. That becomes the only challenging point. We all, and I'm sure all of you boys and girls must be studying insurance, which is becoming a rampant thing wherein companies and corporates take care of their employees or staff by giving them mega or master health checkups done free of cost and so on, which you go to hospitals and get it. But what I want you boys and girls to know is, in the landscape of healthcare in our country, 70% is in what we again call hospitals. 20% is with the pharmaceutical industry because constantly they keep bringing out medicines which get upgraded. And 10% is in research entities. So this comprises the healthcare landscape of our country. 70% of the healthcare landscape in the hospitals sadly gets divided between this 80-20 that I mentioned to you, that 80% is a desert which is unserved, 20% is where mass structured corporate healthcare has made its entry into. Now, corporate could also be defined not just by the big names that we all know, but by 5 of us can get together and create a small corporate of our own, which can be a clinic, which can grow into a nursing home and a small string or chain of hospitals. But these are all paid for services. And I think all of us should unanimously give credit to the state and the national government schemes like Ayushman Bharat and the state schemes that exist. Now, if you see, even Ayushman Bharat is also paid for service by what? By the government pays for that service. We treat so many patients in our centers across the country who get covered under Ayushman Bharat. But again, Ayushman Bharat will become a success when corporate entities also wholeheartedly and wholesomely welcome this. Now, the answer to the specifics of your question, 26, 27 surgery to be done while emergency surgeries are being done, has the following parts of an answer. All of you must know that to do a child heart surgery is a massive team effort. It has a team of close to 25 people of highly skilled performance to make up that team. Now, it takes an estimated time of 4 hours to 6 hours per day to do one heart surgery. Then the child moves into what is called intensive care, which is a whole set of management there. So it puts a strong limitation on the numbers that you can do. As we are both speaking today, we do about 25 open hearts a day. Now, 25 open hearts a day, I will leave it to you to do the mathematics to what kind of an organizational structure, what kind of preparation, because critical pediatric cardiac surgery has to have more safety mechanisms than an aeroplane to fly. That is the degree of safety, security mechanisms that have to be there to ensure we save that child's life. It is again a matter of pride for all of us sitting in this room that the successes of Satya Sai Sanjeevani are not just best in the country but best in the world. That is again a testimony to the teams that work there, and that is because I said the patient is the god of the institute. Now, which is why child heart care is an alarming problem of our times. It is going to take a large number of us to make a change on this, which is why detection, screening, intervention at the early stage, digital health, in whichever way, or as I spoke about, where do sick children with congenital heart disease come from? They come from the mother. So if the mother is well taken care of, if the mother is well cared for, there is a better chance that she will not beget a child with any congenital disease. But I'm telling you, there is so much to speak of. Today, fetal care is such a world of advancement. Our fathers and grandparents didn't know of this. Do you boys and girls know? We will soon be doing the first child heart transplant of Central India very soon. We will soon be doing possibly the first fetal heart correction in the mother's fetus with the child with heart disease also very soon. These are astounding scientific advancements which we can keep doing. But then these are far and few, because how many can we save like this? So this is what I say, that this is a national problem. And it requires a national address to a national problem, or a societal comprehensive address to this problem. And the answer, my dear boy, will come from when we think that everybody's child is our child. If you say, nahi, wo uska beta hai, ye to mera nahi hai. See, that is where the child is the father of man. Is a brilliant statement by the Greek philosopher. The child is the father of man. What the child teaches you is, it has only today. Now either we can think and get together and do something about it. It requires phenomenal action between the government of the day, between like-minded boys and girls like you, between institutions that work for this cause, and many other members of society to all come together to make that difference. But be that as it may, we can do what we can do, and that you boys and girls are at least feeling for somebody. If I think I have aroused in you a heart that feels, I think my time has been worthwhile for why Professor called me today. Because I think, my dear boys and girls, whatever we study, whatever we acquire in the world, nothing compares to a heart that feels somebody's suffering, somebody's need, or somebody's pain. That is the essence of humaneness and humanity. So with that, I'm sure God will guide us and show us a way how we can save more lives.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Now, on behalf of IIM Raipur and Chhattisgarh State, I invite Professor Pradeep Thirati Panda to present our guest, Shri C. SREENIVAS, with a token of appreciation. I would token of appreciation on behalf of IIM Raipur.